John was having a quiet morning on the colony's edge. The sun was low in the sky, painting the horizon in pale gold. The air was still, except for the soft hum of his small generator outside. It was an ordinary day, the kind John liked best. No noise, no trouble, just him and the sound of the wind. He had not thought about her in years. The little alien girl with silver eyes and a shy smile. The one he had saved long ago when raiders came to the colony. She had been scared, alone, and too young to defend herself. He had hidden her in his home, given her food, and kept her safe until the danger passed. The next day, she was gone. No goodbye, no trace. As if she had vanished into the stars. John sometimes wondered what had happened to her. But life moved on, and he pushed the memory to the back of his mind. Until today, a strange rumble shook the ground. John stepped outside, shielding his eyes against the bright light that filled the sky. It was a ship, but not any ship he had seen before. Sleek, silver, and shaped like a blade. It cut through the air before landing just outside his home. Dust and sand swirled around as the engines powered down. John's hand went to the old blaster on his belt. He didn't point it, but he was ready. The ship's door opened with a hiss, a ramp lowered, and footsteps echoed as two figures walked down. The first was a young woman, tall, graceful, and strangely familiar. Her silver eyes caught the sunlight, and John felt his breath catch. It was her, the little alien girl he had saved, but now grown. Her hair shimmered like spun silver, her face both gentle and strong. She wore a dark, elegant outfit marked with symbols he didn't understand. Beside her walked another woman, taller, older, and impossibly regal. Her presence was powerful, like a queen stepping onto a battlefield. Her eyes glowed faintly, her dark hair flowing like liquid night. Her armor gleamed as if made from crystal and metal woven together. John knew without asking, this was her mother. They stopped a few steps away. The young woman's lips curved into the smallest smile. "Hello, human," she said softly. Her voice was warmer than he remembered. But there was also a weight in her tone, as if she carried secrets. John nodded slowly, still unsure what to say. "You've grown," he finally managed. Her smile deepened, but before she could answer, her mother stepped forward. The alien queen's gaze locked on John. When she spoke, her voice was deep and commanding. "John," she said, pronouncing his name perfectly. It was not a question. It was as if she already knew everything about him. John felt a chill run down his spine. "Yes," he replied. The queen's eyes softened just a little, but her tone stayed firm. "My daughter tells me you once saved her life." John glanced at the young woman. She was watching him with eyes full of something he couldn't quite name. Gratitude, maybe. But there was more, something deeper. "I just did what anyone would have done," John said. "No," the queen replied, her voice like the edge of a blade. "You did what no one else dared." The air between them was thick with unspoken meaning. John felt as if the ground beneath his feet had shifted. The queen took one step closer. "My daughter has something to tell you," she said. The young woman inhaled slowly. Her hands were clasped in front of her, but he noticed a faint tremor in her fingers. She stepped forward until she stood right in front of him. John could see the faint glow in her silver eyes now. He had the strange feeling that whatever she was about to say would change his life forever. "Human," she began, her voice quiet but steady. "My mother needs to speak with you. And then I will ask you something." John felt his heartbeat quicken. He had no idea what this was about, but the way they looked at him made it clear this was not a casual visit. The queen tilted her head slightly, her gaze never leaving. "Come inside," she said. It wasn't a request. John hesitated for only a moment before nodding and stepping aside to let them enter. The moment they crossed the threshold, the air in his small home seemed to change. It was as if the walls themselves knew that something important was about to happen. John couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. And deep down, a part of him wasn't sure if he was ready for what was coming. John closed the door behind them. The sound of the latch clicking seemed louder than usual. The Queen and her daughter stood in the middle of his small living space, their presence filling it completely. John's home was simple: a table, 2 chairs, a worn couch, and a shelf filled with old tools and parts. Compared to them, the place looked even smaller. They didn't seem to notice, or maybe they didn't care. The young woman glanced around with quiet curiosity, her silver eyes touching each object as if trying to read his life through them. The Queen, however, kept her gaze fixed on John, even standing still. She seemed powerful, as if the air around her bent to her will. John had met many people in his years, but none like her. He felt like he was standing in front of a storm, wrapped in human form. "Please sit," John said, gesturing to the table. The Queen moved first, her steps silent but commanding. Her daughter followed and sat beside her. John took the seat across from them, his hands resting flat on the table. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, the Queen spoke. "My name is Queen Soraya of the House Valoran," she said, her voice calm but carrying an unshakable authority. John nodded slowly. "I'm John Hale," he replied, though she clearly already knew. Her lips curved just slightly, not into a smile, but into something that might have been approval. "My daughter Ilara told me of the day you saved her." The Queen continued. John glanced at the young woman, Ilara, and saw her watching him intently. She was only a child then, vulnerable, far from home, and hunted. The Queen said, "You risked your life for her, a stranger." John shrugged lightly, trying to downplay it. "She needed help," he said. The Queen leaned forward slightly. "And yet no one else helped her, only you." Ilara's voice was softer. "When she spoke, I remember everything," she said, her eyes meeting his. "The sound of the raiders, the cold, the fear. And then you." Her words carried a strange warmth that made John shift uncomfortably in his chair. She was no longer the shy girl he remembered. Her presence now had a quiet strength, but also a gentleness he couldn't ignore. The Queen straightened, her gaze sharp. "In my world, such an act cannot be left unanswered," she said. "Our law demands that when a life debt is owed to someone outside the family, it must be repaid." John raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly do you plan to repay me?" he asked cautiously. The Queen's expression didn't change. "By making you part of our family," she said simply. John blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Part of their family. Was she talking about a symbolic gesture, an alliance, or something else entirely? Before he could speak, the Queen continued. "My daughter has made her choice," she said, "and by our custom, you cannot refuse it." John's eyes went back to Ilara. She didn't look nervous, only determined. "What choice?" he asked, his voice low. Ilara took a deep breath, her hands tightening in her lap. Her silver eyes seemed to glow faintly under the dim light of his home. "I will tell you," she said softly, "but you must understand. This is not something I say lightly." John felt the air in the room grow heavier. A part of him wanted to stop her, to slow this down before it got too strange. But another part, the same part that had taken her in years ago, wanted to hear her out. The Queen's gaze shifted between them, almost as if she were measuring his reaction. Ilara leaned forward just a little. "There is a reason I came back now," she said. "It is not just to thank you. It is because I need you." John's chest tightened at her words. "Need him? For what?" She hesitated, searching his face. "For something, maybe trust, maybe understanding." Then she said quietly, "My mother will explain the law to you, but I will be the one to tell you what I want." John looked between them, feeling as though the walls of his small home were closing in. He had been through danger before. He had fought for his life more than once. But this, whatever this was, felt different. It felt bigger than him, bigger than the colony, maybe even bigger than the planet. The Queen finally broke the silence, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Before you know her request, you must know her story, the truth of what happened after you last saw her. Alara's eyes flickered with both pain and pride. She nodded, as if giving her mother permission to speak. John leaned back slightly, his heart still racing. The Queen's tone softened, just a little. She was not just a lost child. She was the heir to my throne. The words hit John like a physical blow. He looked at Ilara again, really seeing her for the first time, the way she carried herself, the quiet strength in her posture. It all made sense now. And now, the Queen said, her eyes narrowing slightly, she wishes to bind you to us, in the only way our people honor a life debt. John felt his pulse quicken again. He had no idea what that meant. But he knew one thing. His life was about to change forever. John sat in silence. The Queen's words still echoed in his mind. Heir to the throne, life debt binding. It all sounded like something from an old legend, not real life. But the way they both looked at him told him this was as real as the air. He breathed. Alara's silver eyes stayed on him. Unblinking, she seemed calm. But he could sense her heart was beating fast. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady but softer than before. John, you saved me when I was helpless. In my people's law, that makes you more than a friend, more than an ally. It means you are tied to me forever. John shifted in his seat. I don't understand, he said. What do you mean by tied? The Queen leaned forward, her gaze sharp. In our culture, when someone saves the life of a royal heir, they become family by law, she explained. That bond can take many forms: adoption, alliance, or union. John blinked. Union? His voice cracked slightly at the word. The Queen didn't flinch. Yes, she said. Marriage, it is the highest honor. And the deepest bond. It means our lives, our destinies, become one. John's mouth went dry. Marriage? To an alien princess. He had expected thanks, maybe a gift, maybe even protection. But this was something else entirely. Alara took a slow breath. Her fingers laced together in her lap. I have thought about this for years, she said quietly. When I was far away, when I was in danger, I remembered the human who saved me. No one else has earned my trust like you have. No one else has seen me not as a princess, but as a person. John felt a strange tightness in his chest. There was no lie in her voice. She meant every word. He remembered that day long ago. How small she had been, how scared. And now here she was, tall, strong, and asking him for something that could change both their lives forever. I don't know what to say, John admitted. This isn't exactly something I planned for. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. It is not something you can ignore either, she said. You must decide. And soon, John looked back at Ilara. Her expression was calm, but he could see the hope in her eyes. Not desperation hope, that was somehow harder to face. He rubbed the back of his neck. This is a lot to take in, he muttered. What happens if I say no? The Queen's voice turned colder. If you refuse, the bond will remain unresolved. That would bring dishonor to my house and to you. Our enemies would see it as weakness. They would use it against us, and you would not be safe. John felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just about feelings or tradition. It was about survival, politics, and the balance of power between alien factions. He wasn't just some random human in their eyes. He was a symbol, whether he wanted to be or not. Ilara leaned forward slightly, her voice gentler than her mother's. I'm not asking this because of law alone. I want this. I want you by my side." John met her gaze. Her silver eyes held a light he couldn't quite describe. Something warm, steady, and unshakable. And for a brief moment, he felt the walls around him soften, but the thought of stepping into an alien royal family still felt unreal. "You know, I'm just me, right?" John said, half a laugh in his voice. "I'm not a king, not a soldier anymore, just a man trying to live quietly." Ilara smiled faintly. "That's exactly why I chose you," she said. "You're not like the others. You don't want power. That makes you the safest person to share it with." John didn't know what to say to that. Part of him wanted to walk away from this, to tell them it was too much, too strange, but another part felt a pull he couldn't explain. The Queen broke the silence. "You do not have to decide at this very moment, but you must understand time is short. Our enemies are moving even now." John looked between them. The air felt heavy with unspoken urgency outside. He thought he could hear the faint hum of distant engines, or maybe it was just his own heartbeat. Ilara's voice was soft but clear. "If you agree, I promise you will never be alone again. You will have a place among my people. You will be protected, honored, and trusted." John leaned back in his chair. He was still unsure, but one thing was certain. Whatever choice he made, there would be no going back. The air in the small home felt heavier now. John could hear the faint ticking of the old wall clock. But every second seemed slower. Ilara sat still, her hands resting on the table. Her silver eyes locked on his. She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself to open a door she had kept shut for years. "When I left you that morning," she began softly, "I didn't want to go, but I had no choice. My people had found me. They told me I had to leave immediately before the raiders returned. I didn't even get to say thank you." John remembered waking up that day to find her gone. The empty blanket on his couch, the cold plate of food untouched. He had wondered for weeks where she had gone, and now, hearing her voice, he felt that same ache again. "They took me to a safe place far from here," she continued. "But the moment I arrived, I learned the truth. I wasn't just a runaway. I was the heir to my mother's throne. The enemies who hunted me wanted more than my life. They wanted to end my bloodline." The Queen's face was unreadable, but there was a shadow in her eyes. John realized she must have been fighting a war of her own all that time. "They attacked our ships, our cities," Ilara said. "We were forced to move from place to place, never staying in one place for long. I spent years looking over my shoulder. Some nights I thought I wouldn't live to see the next sunrise." John listened in silence. Every word painted a picture of danger and loss. He had always known there was something unusual about her, but he hadn't imagined the scale of it. One night, Ilara went on. "We were ambushed. Our escort was destroyed. My mother and I were separated. I was captured." Her voice wavered slightly at the memory. John's hands clenched without him realizing it. "They kept me in a dark cell. They wanted information about my mother's location. I refused to speak. For weeks, I was alone, and then, one night, I thought of you." John blinked, surprised. "Me?" he asked. Ilara nodded slowly. "Yes, I remembered how you shielded me, how you gave me food before yourself. I told myself that if a human I barely knew could protect me, then I could protect myself too." That thought kept me alive. The Queen's eyes softened at her daughter's words, though she said nothing. Ilara's voice grew stronger. "I escaped. I made my way through enemy territory until I found loyal allies. From there, I reunited with my mother. Together, we fought back." John could almost see it in his mind, the battles, the danger, the determination. He realized that the shy girl he once knew had become a warrior. But beneath that strength, there was still the same heart, the same kindness. When the war ended, Ilara said, "I told my mother there was one thing left I needed to do. One promise I had to keep. I told her about you. About the man who had risked himself for me without asking anything in return. I told her I would find you. No matter how far I had to travel, John felt something stir inside him. A mixture of pride, disbelief, and something warmer that he couldn't quite name. The Queen finally spoke, her voice lower now. She would not be here if she did not believe in her choice. In our people's eyes, she owes you a life debt. In my eyes, you are the reason I still have a daughter. The room fell quiet again. John's mind was a storm of thoughts. He had never asked for thanks, never expected anything in return. And yet, here they were, offering him a place in their family. Maybe even more. Elara leaned forward, her eyes softening. I didn't just come to repay a debt. I came because I want you in my life, not as a stranger I once knew, but as someone who walks beside me. Every step, John swallowed hard. Her words carried weight. They weren't just tradition, they were personal. And now he understood why saying no would not just be refusing her. It would be refusing everything she had fought to keep alive outside. The wind had started to pick up. Carrying dust across the barren ground, John could hear it against the walls. It felt like the world outside was holding its breath, waiting for his answer. But before he could speak, the faint hum of engines grew louder in the distance. The Queen's head turned sharply toward the sound. Her eyes narrowed. They found us, she said. John looked between them. Who? He asked. Our enemies, the Queen replied. They will not stop until they take her again. Elara stood, her voice calm but firm. John, if you join us now, you will be under our protection. If you don't, you will still be in there. Sights, the decision was coming closer, and this time there would be no waiting. The hum of engines grew louder. John could feel the faint vibration in the floor. It wasn't the soft hum of the Queen's ship. This sound was harsher, heavier, like a predator circling its prey. The Queen rose from her seat in one smooth motion. Her presence seemed to fill the room even more now. She looked at Elara, and a silent understanding passed between them without a word. Elara moved to the door and peered outside. They're here, she said, her voice low but steady. John stepped closer, catching sight of the shadows moving in the dust. Small black shapes at first, then larger as they approached enemy scout ships, 3 of them, sleek and armed. Hovering just above the ground, John's stomach tightened. They found you fast, he muttered. The Queen's eyes narrowed. They were tracking us before. We even landed. It means they've been watching this sector for days. One of the ships landed just beyond the fence. Figures stepped out, tall and armored in black with glowing red visors. They moved with the precision of hunters. John didn't need to be told. These were soldiers, not here to talk, but to take. Elara turned to him, her silver eyes burning with urgency. John, listen to me. If you stay here without us, we'll capture you too. They'll think you have information about where we've been. They won't care if you don't. They'll still hurt you until you tell them what they want to hear. John glanced between her and the approaching soldiers. His instincts told him she was right. He'd seen this kind of thing before, not with aliens, but with men. The method was always the same. Break the weak link to get to the stronger one. The Queen stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. This is why I told you the choice must be made quickly. If you agree to join our family now, you will be protected by our law. Our people will shield you as one of our own. If you refuse, you will stand alone. John felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. He didn't like being cornered, but the reality was staring him in the face. These enemies weren't going to leave. They wouldn't just take Elara. They would take him, too, or worse. The first enemy soldier reached the edge of the yard. His visor tilted toward the house, scanning. John's hand twitched toward the blaster on his hip, but he knew it wouldn't be enough against all of them. Alara's voice broke through his thoughts. John, Please, I don't want you hurt because of me. If you come with us now, you'll be safe. You'll be with me." He looked at her. In that moment, she wasn't a princess. She wasn't a future queen. She was the same young girl he had hidden behind his old couch years ago. The same one who had trusted him without question. And now, she was offering him that trust back. John exhaled slowly. "You're asking me to change my whole life," he said quietly. Elara didn't look away. "I'm asking you to live it," she replied. The queen placed a hand on the table, her eyes fixed on him. John hailed aside. "We can protect you if you are one of us. But if you wait any longer, there may be nothing left to protect outside." The other two ships landed. More soldiers poured out, their weapons gleaming in the fading light. The sound of boots hitting the dirt was getting closer. John's pulse quickened. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. He turned his gaze to Elara. Her eyes held no fear, only trust. And something deeper he couldn't ignore. He thought of the years he had spent alone, the quiet life he had built, the empty evenings staring at the stars, and he realized maybe he had been waiting for something or someone all along. The enemy leader raised a hand, signaling his troops to surround the house. John's decision crystallized. He straightened, his voice firm. "All right, I'll join you, Alaris." Face lit up with relief. The queen's expression remained composed, but a faint nod told him she approved. "Then, from this moment," she said, "you are bound to us." Elara stepped toward him, touching his arm lightly. "Come on," she said. "We have to move now." The queen pressed a small device into John's hand. "A shield marker. As long as you carry this, our ships will recognize you as family." He tucked it into his pocket without hesitation. The sound of enemy footsteps was almost at the door when the queen tapped her communicator. "Extraction," she ordered. From above, a deafening roar filled the air as her own ship lifted off the ground. It descended toward the house with frightening speed, kicking up dust and wind. Elara pulled John toward the doorway. The queen covered their rear, her hand glowing with strange energy. The first enemy soldier reached the porch and was sent flying back by a burst of light. "Go," the queen commanded. John followed Elara up the ship's ramp. The moment they were inside, the hatch sealed shut and the engines roared. Through the small viewing window, he saw the black-armored soldiers grow smaller and smaller as they lifted into the sky. He had made his choice. There was no going back now. The ship's engines roared as it climbed higher into the pale evening sky. John gripped the side rail, the vibration running through his hands. He had been on shuttles before, but this vessel felt different, faster, sharper, like it was alive. Beneath his feet, through the narrow viewing panel, he could see the colony shrinking into a scattering of lights against the desert, and the black-armored soldiers fading into specks far below. Elara stood beside him, her silver eyes watching his face more than the view. "You all right?" she asked softly, her voice carrying over the steady hum of the ship. John nodded, though his thoughts were tangled. "I just didn't expect my day to turn into this," he said. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Neither did I, the first time I met you." The queen was at the far end of the chamber, speaking rapidly into a device that projected a faint blue light. Her tone was crisp, authoritative. John couldn't catch every word, but he understood enough. She was giving orders, setting coordinates, and mobilizing a defense. This wasn't just a rescue. It was the opening move of something bigger. Elara moved closer, lowering her voice. "You made your decision fast down there," she said. John exhaled slowly. "Didn't feel like I had much choice," he admitted. Her gaze softened. "You did have a choice. And you chose us." He looked at her. The weight of what he had agreed to still pressed heavily on him. "I've joined your family now, whatever that means," he said. Ilara's smile grew a little warmer. "It means you're not alone anymore." Queen finished her transmission and walked over, her presence as commanding as ever. "John Hale," she began, her tone formal. "From this moment, you are recognized under the laws of House Valoran. You are afforded all rights, all protections, and all duties that come with the bond. It is not symbolic, it is binding under our people's law." John gave a slow nod. "What kind of duties are we talking about?" he asked. The Queen's eyes studied him carefully. "You will stand beside my daughter. You will represent our family when needed, and in times of danger, you will be expected to defend it as your own." John let out a faint huff. "That last part, I can handle," he said. The Queen's lips curved in something almost like approval. "I believe you can," she replied. A subtle chime sounded in the ship's cabin. Ilara glanced toward the front. "We're heading to the flagship," she explained. John frowned. "Flagship? As in, the big one?" She nodded. "Yes, the largest in our fleet. It's safer there, and the ceremony can be done properly." John leaned back against the wall. "Ceremony," he repeated. Ilara's expression turned serious. "It's how the bond is made official. In our culture, without it, others might try to challenge it. With it, no one can question it." John wasn't sure how he felt about the idea of a public ceremony. The thought of standing in front of a crowd of aliens, most of whom probably didn't want him there, wasn't exactly comforting. But before he could say anything, the Queen spoke again. "You will not be forced to speak their language or follow every custom, but you will stand as one of us, visibly and without hesitation. The enemies we face are watching closely. If they see weakness, they will strike again." The reality of it hit him all over again. This wasn't just about him and Ilara. It was about a war he was now part of, one he didn't fully understand yet. He glanced at Ilara. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. Her answer came without a pause. "Yes. More sure than I've been about anything." The ship jolted slightly as it passed through a thin cloud layer. Lights from the massive vessel ahead came into view, a floating fortress. In the sky, its hull gleamed in silver and deep blue, stretching longer than a dozen city blocks. John had seen big ships before, but nothing like this. It looked less like a warship and more like a palace built to sail among the stars. As they approached the landing bay, Ilara turned to him. "When we step off this ship, everyone will see you as part of my family. Some will welcome you, some will question you, but you must remember, your place here is earned. No one can take it from you." John gave her a faint smile. "I'll try not to embarrass the royal family," he said. Her laughter was soft but genuine. "You'd be surprised how rare honesty is among them. That might be exactly what they need." The Queen stepped toward the hatch as the ship settled into the bay. Her voice was steady, but her words were meant for both of them. "From here on, there is no turning back. We walk forward together." The hatch hissed open, flooding the chamber with cool, metallic-scented air. Rows of alien guards in ceremonial armor stood at attention. Beyond them, the vast interior of the flagship stretched out, lit by golden light and echoing with distant voices. John took a slow breath. He had made his decision on the ground. But now, stepping out into this world, he felt it settle deeper. A truth he couldn't unmake. Whatever came next, he was part of this, and his life would never be the same. The golden light of the flagship's hull spilled over John as he stepped down the ramp. Every sound seemed louder. The click of boots on the polished floor, the faint hum of the great engines, the murmurs of dozens of alien voices. He could feel eyes on him from every direction. Guards, attendants, and officials stood in careful lines, their armor gleaming, their faces unreadable. Ilara walked beside him, her silver eyes steady and sure. The Queen led the way, her presence making the vast hall feel smaller. John tried to keep his steps even. Though every instinct told him he didn't belong here, he had been a colony worker, a soldier, a wanderer but never anything like this. They reached a raised platform at the far end of the hall. Tall banners hung behind it, marked with the royal crest, a silver star wrapped in flowing lines of deep blue. The queen turned, facing the gathered crowd, her voice carrying through the chamber without effort. "People of House Valoran," she said, "we stand here today to honor a bond forged in the most unlikely of places. A human, a stranger to our world, once protected my daughter when no one else would. Today, we recognize that act for what it is, the beginning of a new chapter for our family." The murmurs grew louder, some voices curious, others skeptical. John kept his gaze on Alara, who stood tall and unshaken. The queen lifted one hand, and the hall fell silent again. "This man, John Hale, has chosen to join our house under the bond of life. Debt," she continued. "He is no longer an outsider. From this day forward, he is one of us." A ceremonial guard stepped forward, carrying a silver circlet resting on a deep blue cloth. It wasn't a crown, but a mark of status. The queen gestured to John. "Kneel," she said. John hesitated for half a second, then went down on one knee. The queen lifted the circlet and placed it lightly on his head. The metal was cool, almost weightless, but the moment it touched him, the hall seemed to change. He felt the weight of every watching eye, the shift from stranger to someone bound to their royal line. "Rise, John of House Valoran," the queen said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried something softer, approval, maybe even respect. John stood, and Alara stepped forward. Her expression was calm, but her eyes shone. By their custom, this was her moment to speak. "I claimed this bond not out of duty alone," she said. "I claimed it because I trust you. You were my protector once, when I had nothing, and now I offer you everything I have." The hall was silent for a heartbeat. Then the queen raised her hand, and the gathered crowd gave a formal salute, not cheers, but an acknowledgement of acceptance. John felt the tension in his shoulders ease just slightly. He was still an outsider in many eyes, but he had been given a place here. The queen spoke, once more, her tone shifting. "Let it be known that any who move against him move against our house. And let our enemies see that we do not stand alone." From the back of the hall, a sharp tone sounded a signal. An officer in dark blue armor approached quickly, bowing to the queen. "They've made a move," he reported. "Enemy ships massing near the border systems." The queen's gaze hardened. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. The officer bowed and moved out at once. Alara looked at John. "This is the world you've joined," she said quietly. "It's dangerous, but it's ours now." John gave a faint, wry smile. "I guess my quiet life is over," he said. She smiled back. "Maybe, but I think you'll find this one far more interesting." The queen turned to both of them. "We depart within the hour," she said. "John, you will remain with Alara where she goes, you go. This war will test us all, but if we stand together, we will endure." As they walked from the platform, the golden light of the hall giving way to the cooler steel corridors of the flagship, John felt the shift inside him. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He had stepped into something bigger than himself, into a role he hadn't asked for, but had chosen anyway. They reached a wide observation deck, where the stars stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced glass. The fleet was already forming, dozens of ships moving into position, their lights flickering like distant fireflies. Alara stood beside him, her hand brushing against his. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. The silence was full, not empty. Finally, she whispered, "Welcome home, John." John looked out at the stars. For years, they had only been something to gaze at from afar. Now, they were roads. Roads he would walk with her. He didn't know what battles lay ahead, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was drifting. He had a place, he had a purpose. And he had someone to stand beside. The engines of the flagship rumbled as it prepared to jump into the depths of space. John's hand closed gently around Ilarus. Whatever came next, they would face it together.